We're here to push the rewind button, and we need to push that rewind button. The US uses 117 million barrels of oil every year just to make plastic bottles. If you know the facts at the Gulf oil spill last year, 50,000 barrels a day, that's roughly the amount we need to make bottles for our thirst every day in the United States. One oil spill a day for those bottles. The big mismatch here is that we're using roughly, out of all plastics made, 50% of those made are disposable products, and they're made with permanent materials that last 300, 400, 500 years. Roughly 90% of all plastic made does not get recycled, even if you see it in a nice little recycling bin and you have a logo on the back and you feel good about putting something in the garbage. It probably will not make it to recycling. We have a big opportunity here because 90% is a big number, and plastic is a stored petroleum. It's fuel. It can be fuel. So what we have now is an issue that has caught up to us without us thinking about it. We've now realized that plastic is a great product. You use it a lot in medicine and many other things. We can't get away from it, but there's a lot of other problems associated that we need to take into account. If you take the strawberry industry in the US, we use 1.5 billion plastic cam shells every year just to ship strawberries, and that most likely is not getting recycled. How did we end up here? 1960, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh set a world record by going to 11,000 meters in the Mariana Trench. They went down in a submersible, looked out the window, saw some silt, black, came to the surface, raised their hands, and set the world record. A few years later, Kennedy sent people to space, and the space race started, and we looked up, and we've never, ever looked back. And we've forgotten 70% of our planet, which is the ocean. We're not looking underneath, and we don't know what's going on. And this is what we're talking about with our plastic issue. About 3.5 years ago, I started Project Kaisei with a group, myself and some people here in San Francisco. Kaisei means ocean planet in Japanese. We took an expedition to the middle of the North Pacific Gyre, which is one of the most remote ecosystems on the planet. It takes 3 to 4 days to get there by boat. You can fly to the Antarctic in 24 hours if you want to. This is not on the shipping channels. It is not where the sailboats go, and it's not where any of us go. And so this problem has snuck up on us in the past 50, 60 years without us knowing, and we went out there to tell the story of why this is happening. We were lucky in a way that it's a big problem that is mysterious, and the press followed us. And when that happened, we got some recognition, and that has helped scale this to a very, very big topic now. We were UNEP Climate Heroes, we were Google Earth Heroes, and we were the first group ever, nonprofit, as a very young company to work, nonprofit to work with Scripps Oceanography. We took 2 vessels out to the middle of the ocean for 1 month in August of 2009. Scientists on both boats doing different projects, looking at toxicity, looking at plastic, looking at wildlife. This net here was a deep net, went down to the 800 meters looking for wildlife. The problem with plastic in the ocean is that it gets toxified by other pollutants that are in the water. Pesticides, heavy metals, DDTs, fire retardants. They adhere to plastic like a magnet. So there's two ways that wildlife can be impacted. Big pieces can cause physical damage. They can get stuck in a stomach. They can strangle something. All whales today, most of them when they're beached, we used to just bury them in the sand. You cut them open now, they have plastic in their stomach, sometimes hundreds of kilos. We found a piece of plastic extremely strong, a white thing on the bottom of it, pulled it out. 1 week later, we thought it was a barnacle. Turns out it was the bill of a marlin, because that marlin had been hunting this thing which it thought was a tuna on the top of the water. On the small end, as plastic does not biodegrade, but it will break down and it photodegrades, these little pieces will cause chemical impact, potentially, to small animals. The smaller they get, the more they can eat them. So this material goes into the gut of a fish or a small organism. Those toxins that are on the plastic can come off on the fatty tissue. The plastic might go through and not kill that animal, but those toxins stay there, and it goes up the food chain into biomagnification. The problem in the ocean is that there is no body count for animals or wildlife. It is possible that you might have seen some photos in Midway Island of the albatross where they have fed their chicks plastic. The chicks starved to death because there's no nutrition in the plastic. Unfortunately, that plastic then gets recycled when it gets washed off into the water again, and another bird eats it. One of the interesting things on our trip is that we found very little colors of red and orange, because those are the colors most likely for animals to eat, looking like shrimp or eggs. So what we're doing, we're one of the only groups that's really out there to try to solve this problem. It's a perfect case of tragedy of the commons. There's no government that owns this water. It's out of the 200-mile zones. We can't call someone and say, hey, this is your water, you should correct it. The UN is not able to do this at this point. And no one had been doing anything. And we have put together a team. We've looked at different ways to capture this out of the water. We have a think tank with marine engineers and fishermen trying to figure out how to get it out. Can we do it? Can we remediate it when it's done? And the beauty with this issue is that we're trying to bring together a collaboration of science and technology and know-how to do something to fix a problem that the world hasn't been able to fix yet in that context. One of the tests we did was a CTD. We use this device. It tests water. It's about 5 gallons. There's 24 containers. It fires off at different elevations, and we do water sampling. In the middle of the ocean, we found a piece of plastic at 200 meters down and a piece at 160 meters by accident in the middle of the Pacific in a 5-gallon tube, basically. We're the first group to find that there is now 3-dimensionality in this situation and not just flat and floating debris. We also found a hatchet fish that's only about 5 centimeters long, and that hatchet fish only lives at a band of water 200 to 300 meters deep. It doesn't go to the surface and migrate to the top in order to feed. We found that hatchet fish with one of those deep trawling nets, and it had a piece of plastic in it. So at some point, plastic is changing its buoyancy. It might be biofouling. Something is happening, and that plastic is sinking. We don't know what's at the bottom. I just saw a video a few weeks ago which really hit hard to me. Off the coast of Italy, 12 miles out, 1,000 meters deep, 3,000 feet deep, submersible had gone down, filming what was on the bottom. Entire whole perfect plastic bag. Another perfect plastic bag, another perfect plastic bag, and then in this divot in the sand there was 50 plastic bottles, 1,000 meters deep. The UN estimates that 70% roughly of all the material that goes into the ocean sinks, so what we're looking at is only the floating material right now, and this is something that we need to change and have collaboration on. One of the other things that we did is we tested water, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but on our slide, on our project, we tested 5,500 miles of water and got plastic in every single sample that we tested. Now in this case here, we're looking at coastlines, and we have some new solutions that we're trying to bring to this issue. This coastline In normal sense, if you map the coastline and look on Google and figure it out, well, what it is roughly 218,000 miles. So just imagine that you're in a class and the teacher, there's two kids, teacher says, hey, Bobby and Sally, get up here. I want you to draw a line down the coast of California from Oregon to San Diego, and don't take your pencil off of that map, and go right down the coast. So Bobby goes up there, and he goes to Oregon, and he goes right down the coast, down to San Diego. Teacher says, wow, that's great. You did it, but you know what? That's not exactly what we're looking for right now. Sally gets up. Sally's had a bunch of coffee and a Red Bull, and she's fired up, and she's way too fast, but she gets up there, and she goes to the teacher, and she says, this is how I need to draw the coastline. So today, we need to think about bringing people who live inland to the ocean. We're all connected by water. If you think of this as the veins of a body, since we're in medicine here, these veins are going into the heart is our ocean. If you want to think about plastic as cholesterol, these are the delivery points that are going to the heart. This is one of the biggest ways that plastic is getting into the water, and we're looking now at developing a whole platform to draw the attention to the world's rivers and the linkage with the ocean. So now, when we start thinking about coastlines, we have to go inland. And again, this can bring the population who lives inland and isn't used to thinking of the ocean, bring them together. When you look at the world's 20 largest rivers, and you go up one riverbank and you come down the next, and you add it up, it's 86,000 plus miles, 3.5 times around the world. That's a new coastline we didn't really ever think about in this way. When you add all the tributaries that we just saw when Sally did a little map, we have millions of miles of coastline. The interesting thing here is when you go to a water conference, people talk about water, fresh water, desertification, pollution, but they never talk about the ocean. And you go to an ocean conference and they talk about seawater and issues with the ocean, but they don't talk about the rivers or freshwater. And hopefully this is something that's going to allow this linkage to occur in a very large way. So I started a new group called the Ocean Recovery Alliance to run and manage 2 projects. This is one of them, called the Global Ocean Alert System. This was launched at the Clinton Initiative last year in September, as with the other projects that I'm going to talk about. And it's a way to bring community reporting, create a neighborhood watch platform for your own river. With smartphones and social media today, you can go there, take a photo, take a video, and you can grade the rivers based on floating debris. It doesn't have to be super scientific that you need a water meter. It's something that a 12-year-old kid can do. And when he goes out there, you can start to see ratings and alerts that are linked with weather patterns. So if there's a high water rise or a flood, the fishermen or the people downriver know, hey, we can go catch some money, because that stuff is worth something. Once we change the world's thinking that this waste is valuable. So we can bring best case solutions. This is a case in Yarra River in Melbourne. They've done this for 10 years. Very simple boom systems on the side of the river, and they catch debris as it comes down, and they save it from going into the ocean so we don't have to pick it up later. Very, very smart, but it doesn't happen very often. Most countries, many countries in the world, still use rivers as their main waste management tool. So this platform we hope to launch in the coming months, and very, very excited about this because we think it really is going to bring the whole community together, nonprofits, universities. We will have the ability to bring hard science in later on other pollutants, but right now we're just looking at raising awareness on marine debris and getting people out at the mouths or upriver to make a difference. The next solution we launched also at the Clinton Initiative was called the Plastic Disclosure Project. This project is framed around the Carbon Disclosure Project, which was launched about 10 years ago in the UK, when the Kyoto Protocol mandated that companies needed to trade carbon credits if they were polluting. As an asset manager, an investment manager, you do not want to have a liability of a company who is polluting a lot needing to trade carbon credits. So they wanted to know what was going on, and they started this yearly reporting scheme. So we've started a similar one based on plastic. How much do you use every year? What are you doing with your plastic? Have you thought about it? We did a survey in the summer with 2 MBA students from Hong Kong. We asked asset managers around the world, are you interested in getting yearly plastic numbers? They said, why? Plastic, who cares? It's lightweight, throw it away. We said, well, there's this issue in the ocean. There's some ecology problems, ocean problems, and there's health problems, endocrine disruption. By the way, there's a lot of new materials, there's new solutions, there's new design, there's new remediation. Wouldn't you want to be knowing who is making those decisions, and wouldn't you want to invest in those kind of companies? And the guy said, wow, yeah, we do. We got the approval, not the approval, but the backing of asset managers running almost $6 trillion in money, saying, yes, we'd like to know this information. Just yesterday, we got approval from the UNEP Finance Initiative, who very excited to back and support what we're doing here. So we will be rolling this out in the coming months. How can companies do this? Or institutions, it can be a hospital, it can be a university, they can reduce waste in their management, in their production line, they can increase recycling, they can increase recycling content of the products. We're not trying to point a finger and say everything's bad, but just use it and manage it more wisely. You can use new materials, biodegradability, or you can use better design. And there's plenty of studies that show consumers are willing to pay more if companies make the right decision and take the lead. And we need to find those leaders and bring them along with what we're doing. The last project, which is more of a larger scale one, we are looking at, based on what we're doing, we're like a magnet to new technologies and ideas. And some of the new remediation capabilities are pretty exciting. One of them is plastic to fuel. There's a lot of companies, not a lot, there's a few companies in different countries trying to crack this nut. The trick is when you blend plastic of all different types and colors and temperature melting points, it's very hard to run a machine to make it all come out as something. We had 8 schools in Hong Kong, where I'm based, collect plastic, and this is basically proof of turning trash to cash, okay? We took the plastic from the kids' schools, we ground it up, put it in this machine which distills it, and turned out to be diesel fuel. We took the diesel fuel onto a boat, took the kids onto a boat, and we went and saw the endangered peak dolphins in the Pearl River Delta using the fuel that those kids collected. This fuel is 50% cleaner than sulfur, marine sulfur being sold today, and it's doing a huge social impact by getting plastic off the planet forever. So this is something we are not inventing, but we're certainly trying to propagate this. These machines, for example, this is Mr. Chung's machine. It's about the size of a 40-foot container. It's something that island nations can use. Most waste management landfills today are overfilled. They need this kind of help anywhere. But islands don't have waste management capacity. They burn it or they toss it over the edge. Rivers, all of this. This is a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs and small businesses because it's not a massive refinery. It's something that could even be on a boat. And yes, if we can figure out the metrics of picking stuff out of the middle of the ocean with Kaisei, then this kind of thing could be on a barge, potentially, not to make money, but to at least subsidize some of what we're trying to do. And we're trying to get these kind of products into the market as fast as we can. But that's not just our job. We're trying to bring everyone together to help do that. Now, some other issues, not just on plastic, but on a bigger issue related to the ocean and the ocean's health. One of the things Nora kindly wrote about me, I guess that's maybe why I'm here today, but someone in the US Navy read the article in the Hopkins magazine from Japan. They invited me up to Japan, and it was the day before the earthquake, and I happened to be there, thanks to Nora for the earthquake. But because of that, and I used to live in Japan, so I definitely have a Japanese feeling. Because of what I've been doing in the last few years, I've met a lot of people, and somehow by chance, I'm now in the middle of this organizing of trying to track the tsunami debris from Japan across the ocean with scientists from the University of Hawaii, NOAA, and Scripps. This is a model that the scientists in Hawaii has done. It takes 2 years to get to California. It comes back around the gyre to Hawaii, 4 years, then it gets stuck in the gyre. Big shipping problems, big shipping dangers, fishing, not to mention what's going to happen on the California coast and Hawaii in the many years to come. So what we're trying to do is, we have it all ready, the equipment's ready, but we need the edict and the mandate to have the Coast Guard say, yes, it's okay, we're looking for help from the White House to have this done, to drop buoys from the air into this debris flow while it's fairly closed together, and at least we can get this in and start tracking what we're doing. People can go out later and try to solve that. This is a real-time, live, huge science opportunity, and with someone like National Geographic involved who is already interested, this could be a great case for America to get involved in this. We're spending a lot of money on the military, a lot of money in the sky. This does not take a lot of money, but it takes just some people who get it and say, we need to do this and be involved and get good PR from it. And hopefully you'll be able to see that in the next very near future. Another project that I'm working on has to do with sharks. I live in Hong Kong. Hong Kong trades 50% of the world's shark population when it's dead. That's about 70 million sharks a year. And if there's one country or one city in the world that could make a huge ecological impact on the ocean, it's Hong Kong, because if they stop trading this, we could make a huge dent. So now what I'm doing is working with 3 SAIS students, and they are doing the first economic study of the value of sharks to the dive industry and associated communities around in those countries. And this is significant, I think, because it's bringing not just science and the industry and some policy into the debate, it's bringing a real big university with a big name into this issue about sharks and protection in the ocean. Sylvia Earle says that we have only 10 years to fix the ocean problems. 10 years. She's one of the top scientists in the world on the ocean. Some of the problems I talked about today are solvable. It is very hard to solve acidification. It is very hard to deal with climate change issues, but plastic and overfishing and shark issues, we can solve these. And we need to look at global issues. Now with Google, we can fly out instead of looking down on a much bigger macro scale. The current models today of fixing big problems do not work. They have not worked for a while. And this is where there's a great opportunity for SAIS and Johns Hopkins and the youth all in this room to do a lot with the environment. Because any industry in the world will have angles where environmental improvement and new technologies can come in. And your leadership in making significant change, not 1% and 2% changes for an annual report, big change needs to happen. Someone told me once about the definition of sustainability. I heard this only recently. Often you think sustainability, I can keep my business going, pull the stuff out, leave some for later, and as long as it can keep going, it's okay. This definition says when you do a sustainable business, you are investing in a product or service that is going to solve a global or a community problem with that product or service. So you are adding back. You're not just trying to stay norm and not do worse. You're trying to bring something back. We've spent 50 years, 100 years. Our population is getting bigger and bigger. We can't keep degrading. We have to start adding. And that's where there's a big opportunity here. So I would not have gone to Wharton, where I did a joint program with Wharton and SAIS. I would not have gone there if there wasn't for SAIS. I liked finance, but here I am doing ocean work. And I think SAIS and Johns Hopkins has really given me a broader, macro, global ability to look at some of these issues in a way that I think and hope others can get involved with. We need support. We need to spread the word. There's so many touch points in this problem, and I think it's something that we can all hopefully get together and work on. I would like to thank my parents, Doug and Deli Woodring, who are in the audience, who have helped me through both graduate school, then being an entrepreneur and working in an NGO. And also, April and Glenn Buxbaum, who are in the back, who have been helping me day and night in the last 2 years to make happen some of these global changes that we're trying to do. I'd like to leave you with one comment. It's an Ethiopian proverb. When spider webs unite, they can stop lions. Thank you.